I'm going to just demystify the effects a bit. I'll take a look at a diagram here first. We've got our mixer, which is this physical mixer here. And then you can think of it as creating a physical box outside. So we could do that here, where we've got an effects unit that we've created or bought from Amazon or whatever. And this is a box sitting outside. So virtually that's existing inside, but you can think of it as a complete external box. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take the signals, some of the signals, or as many as we want, from the mixer, and we're going to push them out, and we're going to go into the effects unit. Then we're going to take the result of that, and we're going to send that back out, and these are dry signals coming in, and then the effects get added onto it, like reverb, delay, that sort of thing. They get added on in the proportions that we set that come out of here. So this could be a whole bunch of this. Let's go to the next slide here. So we've got Bill and Kim. Now, Kim could be the main singer, or you may want more effect on her, so you can bring that up to like 75% of the slider, and this one could be just a wee little bit. So the proportions of all these could be instruments and vocals. The proportions can all be different. So they're dry signals, what levels are going in. The effects unit works on those based on all the settings of the effects unit and sends them back out as one input on each of the outputs of the auxiliary. So each in-ear monitor or the mains on the house, they all have separate sets of sliders, and then there's an effects one channel that comes back from each effects unit. You can have up to 4 of them on the DL32. Once the signals come back, then you can raise and lower that slider, and that becomes an input into the mixer, as you'll see. So these are all outputs in the output section. We can come over here a minute and take a look. So you've got an output button and you've got input button. This whole section here is one button. It doesn't matter where you touch it. And this whole section is one button. It doesn't, again, matter where you touch it. But what we're gonna do is think this is output. So that basically is going to be what is getting sent from the mixer out. And then you've got the input section where you're just picking how many channels you want to see at a time. There are 32 channels and some other inputs from the effects unit, that sort of thing, but they're all inputs into the board. So that's what this button is for. So you can pick, if you go in here, you can pick different sections, or you can go auto, which basically takes all of the sliders that have anything above 0. Now these don't count, but these are normal channels. These would be the inputs in this section here of the mixer. So wherever they're above 0, so we've got channel 6 and 8 in this case. Let's take a look at the actual mixer. We'll go to all. And you can see 6 and 8 are raised above 0. Anything that's 0 don't show in the auto. You can also do assigns of the various different buttons in there, so that you can have one for in-ears, IEM, one for engineers, so they see just the the sliders that are happening separately from that. But this whole section is various pairs of sunglasses, you might say, to see the sliders in different proportions. But they're still all one button. You click on here and you're always going to see this set. And this is where you would assign them. You could have multi-select. You can have like engineers, IEMs and engineers both turned on at the same time, that sort of thing. There's still only one set of sliders. If you click down here as a little trick, I learned to basically bring that back up. So what you've got at the top section here is the outputs. So this is where what's going to the main outs, what's going to the various in-ear monitors. And then also there's the 4 effects units. Okay, so this is what you're sending to that effects unit. So from here over to here. Okay, so we'll look at that in a minute, but you've got 4 effects units, and then the rest of these are all outputs, 2 sets of outputs, but we won't worry about those right now. But think if you understand that these are two separate buttons, and then down here is all the masters. So these are all sets, all the sets of faders. So in this case, we've got effects 1 to 4. And if we look at each one of these, they'll all have a separate whole bank of sliders of what proportions are going from the mixer into the effects unit. So what you can think of is that each of these have their proportions that come up into here. You could think of another little slider right in here that boosts and lowers all of these at one time, and that's what these masters are, okay? They're gonna boost and lower what's going into this effects unit, and the proportions will all stay the same, but you'll reduce and increase what's going into the effects unit. And then what's coming back out, at what level that's getting mixed, you can think of here as the main outs, or wherever that's going to. It could be in-ears, it could be the speakers, but whatever's coming out, you're going to be mixing how much of this effect unit gets pushed into the combined signals coming across here, and then that effect will show up on the mains or the in-ear monitors, that sort of thing. So to set up the effects unit, you'll go up to the special FX button there, and you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different effects that we can set up. These are the boxes that this would be one of. So like say this is going to be plate reverb. You just go in here, select it, plate reverb, and then there's a bunch of presets for each one of these. So if you were going to make it sound like a bright club, you'd say recall that preset. And you can see some of these sliders. There's two, in this case, there's 2 pages of settings because there's so many. So if you see that, that's what that means. And you can also mute the actual reverb unit. So anyways, we have the unit set up in this case. So this box is now created. So we've gone to Amazon, we bought it, it came in, and this is the actual box, okay? So it's sitting there, and it actually is virtual, created by this mixer, by MasterFader5. But in this case, we have an effects box. So now we're going to send signals to it. So what you're going to do is you're going to take from the mixer, and you want to be doing effects sends from the mixer. So when you hear the term effects sends, that's what's getting sent from the mixer. And then you've got effects returns, which are coming back to the mixer. Okay, so we're going to go to the effects sends here. So I'll come back out of the effects because we're done setting that box up. And now I want to see what's being sent to the effects unit. Okay, so we're going to click on the outputs because we're going to be sending it to there. I could click on here again, but I'll just pick the effects one, which is the one we just set up. This is where you select how much of whatever fader over here, the proportions that are coming into towards the effects unit. So these are the effects sends. You're going to pick this, bring up some of the different singers, whatever happens to be. Like in this case, we've got Bill and Kim, so we could bring up their sliders. And say we want more of Kim, and Kim is the first one here. We'll bring it up quite a bit, okay? Now you can see here that there's a master also on the right-hand side. So these are all the separate channels, and you can see all 32 show up there. But then there's also a master, and that is where you can think of another sub slider here, which is bringing up all of them or bringing down all of them on this one fader. So once we've got the levels set up here that's being sent to the effects unit, we're now going to take a look at how we get that mixed in. So the next one is you're going to be taking what's coming back from the effects unit. So that's going to be an input into here. So I'm going to go down to the input section here, and I'm just going to pick all of them right now. And we're going to be looking at whatever one of these we're going to be sending that to. So in this case, I'll pick main. which is our mains left and right on the house. And then what I'm going to do is now I can come way over to here. And you can see we've got effects 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, we're going to be looking at FX1. So I'll bring that up, and you can see here there's the reverb unit. What I want you to do is look over here, and you can see that that is where it comes back into here. And that's why it's an input. Okay, it's an effects return. So it's just one slider coming back. And that is how much of the proportion of the mix is being sent by effects. So in other words, all the other channels, you're going to bring the trumpets up, the keyboards up, the vocals up, all separately on the different input channels here. And they're going to be going to the mains. So you've got the main slider right here that's going to go up and down. But what you want to do is you want to set how much of the effect is also going into that mix. Okay, so that's where you're going to do it with this. And this is a master for the whole set of sliders. So if we come down here, we can say here the effects up and down is this is the effect send. So actually from here over, and that is this master sitting in there. Okay, so that's what you're bringing up and down if you bring this up and down. If you go to the input, and if we go to the mains, and if we look at the effects there, you can see effects channel 1 there. So that's what's being returned from the effects unit into the mixer. So just to summarize, we're looking at mains, looking at all the channels here. We're looking at the effects on there, 1, 2, 3, one slider for each of them. That is the effects returns, okay? So that's what's coming in here, one slider for each. Now, when we look at the outputs, or let's go down to the masters, you can see there's the levels that these are at, and these are the sliders, again, for controlling the masters of a set coming in from here. So you've got all these different channels coming at different proportions. I know I'm repeating this, but they're going into this slider, which is this slider here. Okay, so that's the masters that we're talking about here. So this would be a master slider here. And then looking at the output of the effects coming back in, that's the effects in. So the effects return. Again, this is the effects send, where they're being sent to the effects, and this is the effects return, where they're being sent back in. Now I'm going to increase the slider again. So here's the effect send, and here's the effect return. I'll go to the next slide. I've just cleaned that up a little bit so you can see the effects send, effects return. But what I want you to see here is that from the perspective of the mixer, this is an effects send. From the perspective of the FX, if you're sitting inside the FX looking, you're going to say, okay, this is the audio in, not the effects send, but it's the audio coming in. And the audio going out of the effects is what gets returned as a single channel into the mixer. So that's where the FX return is. So I hope that simplifies things for you. Again, there's 3 sets of buttons here, I guess you could say. One would be the, this is the out, and then this all is one section is the ins. And then this whole section here, again, one button. If you click on it, is all your masters. Okay, the masters again being the masters of all the set of inputs coming into it. So if we come to mains, and then exact same thing for all the auxes. Like say you have in-ears on 3. What's going to happen is that without even any effects being considered here, you're going to be raising and lowering the sliders for the different vocals and keyboards and that sort of thing. Then if you come over to again to the other side here, and you can see the 4 effects units. So if you're raising and lowering this slider, okay, what you're doing is doing an effects return, and what's coming and it's going out to somewhere. That's going to go out to, in this case, the in-ear monitors. So what you're doing is saying, for this particular in-ear monitor, there's a lot or a little of effects, maybe no effects. So you can have different levels of what's being proportioned into the outputs based on whether it's the house speakers or whether one of the in-ear monitors doesn't want to hear any effects. You can just turn this slider down, and basically that return for that particular in-ear monitor, which is then going to come out to the in-ear monitor, will not have any effects on it. Or if you have the slider up, it will have more. That is the way to control how much effect is coming out to each in-ears and to your monitors and to your main outputs and that sort of thing. Each of them can be proportioned separately. So I hope that demystifies the effects, because there's a lot of confusing terms out there as far as what terminology is used. Sometimes Effectsbox used to have effects. So here it would say effects send, where it really was audio in, but they're giving it from this view of the mixer side. It's easier to think of it, this is audio in and out. And then from the mixer's perspective, what it's doing is sending out a whole bunch of stuff out of here into the effects. So it's an effects send. And then the combined effects of all the effects is what's coming back on here. And that comes back as one slider for each of your outputs. So one slider had, effects for each of the effects. One slider will control one of many outputs coming out of here. So I think I explained that already, but hopefully this helps. If it does, please visit my site and like and subscribe if you want. That would be great. Thanks.